In the first part of my gamma gun build, I made two of the panels that make up the body of the gun by etching and soldering copper-clad circuit boards. In this part, I'm going to make the other four using the same copper-clad boards as the base, but the process is going to be different for these ones. Fallout has a mechanic that allows you to zoom in and inspect most in-game objects from any angle, which is incredibly helpful if you're a prop maker trying to get reference images. I imported the screenshots into Inkscape. It's an SVG drawing program similar to Adobe Illustrator, but with the major advantage of being completely free. Then I just replicated the design for all the text and symbols as closely as I could. These are the finished layouts for the two boards. Unlike the last video where I etched the design onto the copper side of the board, these designs have to go on the other side. For real circuit boards, this is usually done by silkscreen, but I don't have a screen printing setup, so I'm breaking out the vinyl cutter again. The idea is to cut the design out of adhesive vinyl and stick it to the board, like, well, a sticker. Straightforward enough in theory, but I'd never done this before and there were a few issues that I needed to work out. Firstly, the templates I drew up needed to be reworked a little before they were suitable for running through the machine. Then the first attempt at cutting them was a little bit of a disaster, although I did sort of see that coming. Some of the letters and numbers were so small that they would get knocked out of place by the blade as it was cutting. As you can see, this first one was completely unusable. By making the text a little bit larger and adjusting some settings on the machine, I was able to get one cut with minimal losses. A font size of 14 was the finest level of detail I was able to get good results with. After the vinyl is cut, the next step is to transfer it to the board. I'll demonstrate some of these steps using one of the pieces that didn't cut correctly as an example. First, remove all of the vinyl that isn't part of the design. I've already taken out the background, and then I'm going to pick out all the other little bits that don't belong. I'm using a dental pick, but you could also use a pin or a sewing needle. There are times when you might even want to use two at once. One to pick away the areas you want to remove, and a second one to gently hold down the small details you want to keep so they don't come off along with the parts you're removing. I found that sometimes it works best to push down hard enough for the pick to puncture the vinyl a little bit, so it almost acts like a fish hook to pull the pieces off. After I had my design cleaned up, I applied this transfer tape. This allows you to peel all the vinyl parts off the backing material at once, keeping them all laid out correctly. I found it was easier to put the tape down first, sticky side up, and then put the vinyl on top of it, rather than trying to get the tape down onto the vinyl. Then I laid the tape on the circuit board and pressed down over the design to get it to stick. The adhesive on the vinyl is much stronger than the adhesive on the tape, so when you peel the tape off, the vinyl stays on the board. Here's one of the boards with the vinyl applied. I also did a little bit of weathering on it with some acrylic paint, and I drilled holes for mounting all the electronic components. I don't know much about electronics, but I did manage to find parts that were a very close visual match for almost all the components from the reference images. I couldn't find anything that matched these big red and green things in the middle here, but I figured they wouldn't be too hard to fabricate. I sculpted the shapes out of polymer clay and stuck a piece of aluminum wire through each one. I baked the clay to harden it, and you can see I overcooked them a little bit. Fortunately, this didn't seem to cause any problems. For the red ones, I painted them with the same nail polish I used as an etching resist in the last video. For the green ones, I used spray paint. I put those tabs of masking tape to keep paint off the wires, as well as to give me something to hold them by while I painted them. Then I fixed all the parts to the board by putting the leads through the holes I drilled and soldering them in place on the copper side. I realize this looks hideous, but this side of the board won't be seen when it's all assembled. This is what it looks like with all the components in place. I just had to make two of each of the two designs. The process is the same for the rest of them, although I made a couple mistakes here. First of all, I didn't realize these transistors would be so small when I ordered them. I put them on anyway, but the longer I looked at it, the more I hated it. Too small! So I ended up ordering larger ones and replacing them later. My other mistake was making a second one identical to this one. They both use the same template for the vinyl, but they have a slightly different layout of electronic components. This is a good lesson to frequently go back and look at your designs and reference images. Even if you're pretty sure you've got it right, it's always worth double check and save yourself the time of having to fix silly mistakes like this. here are all 6 of the boards finished. I'm trying to have updates for this project at least every 2 weeks, so make sure to subscribe if you want to follow along with the progress.